It's recording. Were we not recording the whole time?
Seems like every road you're on is hit a dead end. There is hope. Let me show.
To be very honest with you, I haven't listened to it audibly anyways. I saw it and I loved the visual. Don't look at me like that.
I'm looking at the camera that they have in the office.
You're looking at the camera that they have in the office?
Mm-hmm. Whenever they do their lookaways.
Yes.
Because the audience needs to know how ridiculous this is.
Do like the hand motion and zooming in.
No zooms. We're good with that. But hello everyone. We're recording. We've been recording for a bit. I'm sure we'll edit it, but what we were doing was finally coming up with things that we talked about last episode of what we needed to do. One of which was coming up with a fun catchphrase for when we need to bleep out certain words, places, people, because we can't think correctly to save our lives. So, depending if we'll end up using it this week or this week's episode, Ellie was flabbergasted. She was shooketh to the cores on what I suggested our bleep out noise to be. And I think it's great. It's nice that she doesn't need caffeine. She can just wake up in pure shock from the things that I say and doesn't need any caffeine whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the adrenaline of an older brother.
Yeah, it's my job. It's my job.
Well, everyone, welcome to Purim Continuum. We have a great episode coming up right now. First off, Zach, we've made it to episode 10. Welcome, everybody, and congratulations, Zach.
You too. We did it. We haven't killed each other yet.
Well... yeah.
Emphasis on yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I honestly, it's just how this panned out is all exciting and cool. And to whoever's listening now or is going to be listening past the timestamp of this episode specifically, thank you for listening. And thank you for supporting Zach and I and the dreams and the wishes and the prayers that we have towards these episodes. But exciting stuff. Are you ready for this episode, Zach?
I am. But first, tell the audience, did you come up with the title for our new segment?
No.
I think, judging by her facial expression, for those who aren't watching, the answer is no.
That's not fair. Hold on. I had a to-do list for anyone who watched last episode. I had a to-do list. Where's my to-do list? There it is. I had to figure out sound effects for bleeping, opening tagline, which, hey, if you've noticed that, hey, welcome to Purim Continuum, today's episode, yada yada. That's trying to figure out the tagline, the opening tagline, and more structure because of all the episodes that we have going on now. Like, hey, let's organize it. Now we have the image. Let's kind of, what's the term? Oh, no. Put everything together. And
yeah.
Don't look at me that way.
No, it takes us a while. Believe it or not, the hard part about doing this with each other is that we're both creative people.
Mm-hmm.
So
differently creative too.
You put two creative people tasked with coming together, it's nearly impossible because everyone has their opinions about why their creativity is the superior creativity. And so things that I think would be creative, Ellie goes, no. And then things that she likes, I'm like, well. So you would think that'd be really easy just to be like, yeah, come up with the tagline, come up with this, come up with that. And it's really not. So,
no.
I mean, it's easy to come up with. It's not easy to decide and come to agreement, you know. It's not easy to come to agreement. She's lying.
Well,
don't let her lie, you guys.
Wait. Let me say something.
Don't listen to her lies.
No.
That's why she,
No, I was just
lies start with the letter L, and she has 2 L's in her name.
Zach.
That was fun.
Oh, you see the bullying I'm getting from him?
I'm preparing
no,
her for the real world.
I've been prepared.
No, she hasn't.
That's what the past 9 episodes have been about. It's like, anyway, so we have come together, and hey, we figured out tagline. Hey, we figured out sound effects, or at least sound effect for me, sound effect for you. Why was I tasked? Why are you saying that I was tasked to figure out the episode name on my own?
I didn't
In
say
front
it
of the
was on
camera.
your own.
Oh,
I
well,
just
then
asked
how
if
about
you came up
Your
with
turn.
it.
Your turn. Have you come up with it?
Yes.
And that is
Diarrhea Chronicles.
what is up with you and that word?
Diarrhea is something we just don't talk about a lot.
I think
No,
there's
I
a
don't-
good reason why.
I
that's
don't
not
have a
really-
segment name for it. I mean, I think something simple, just to kind of be a starter pack, would just kind of be something like, I don't know, like continuum corner, because continuum means just a continuous timeline,
Right.
you know? So since the sub-segment is about how the past still ripple effects in the present as a continuous thing, we can just call
Right.
it continuum corner. It's not nothing breakthrough. I just came up with it in a matter of seconds. It's not necessarily anything fantastic in terms of creativity, but we can at least start
or
there.
definite.
Start there.
Yeah, I mean, this is me rebuttaling, and we'll figure out post
Where's my camera?
episode. No, I was just gonna say, I think if anything, the only concern I have is that if we find a title, we take it and keep it. So if you want it to be that, just we're gonna use that every single time we use that episode.
Yeah, let's go with it.
Yeah.
We have an hour. Ellie
Already
has
know.
to be done in an hour sharp because she has things to do. No, you do. We have an hour.
I have some wiggle room. I made sure I have a prior engagement after this episode, and I said I need time to prepare and get ready. I basically got ready now, so all I got to do is put shoes on, and I don't know what else to do. But
She has a prior
Don't laugh at me.
engagement. She has a hideous skirt convention to go to because she just watched she watched The Devil Wears Prada last night.
I love it. Yes.
And that's what Emily says. Do you have some prior commitment, some previous engagement? Some hideous skirt convention you have to
Skirt
go
convention. Anyway,
to? She has this really
we need to
bad
get-
Goodwill polka dotted skirt. I can't wait for you guys to see it. We'll put on a picture as a teaser.
Not me.
Yeah.
Oh, the Devil Wears Prada. I don't have one.
We'll Photoshop a skirt on you. It'll be great.
I don't wear skirts anymore. So
Oh, you know what? We have AI. I can just ask ChatGPT, here's my sister, add the most hideous skirt you can to her, and it'll be great. Ooh, okay.
that's your
Perfect.
homework today.
Yes, that'll be our. If you're wondering why our episode was short, it's because of this. Ellie had to go to a hideous skirt convention. Okay,
Yes.
so today's episode it's going to
Yes.
be a little different. I just realized I had my microphone so close, and so the levels are going real high. So sorry, audio.
Oh gosh.
It's okay. I have it. It's good now. Sorry.
Anyway, you should have your limiter on.
Huh?
You should have your limiter on.
My limiter?
It helps make sure to find the max every single time, no matter how close you are. It goes at a specific decibel level limit.
Okay.
Anyway,
You put your delimiter on. Anyway,
I do.
so this one is going to be a little bit different in terms of topic, in terms of the breakdown of how we kind of go about this episode. All our episodes before were more storytelling, more talking about our pasts and that whole thing. We're kind of going now more into more conversational pieces. Now we're kind of going into a more of a direction of topic, subject matter, pondering things, and kind of just having more of a dialogue, like a normal podcast of just two people
I have a
talking.
question.
Right? Huh?
I have a question.
Question. Go for it.
Continuum Corner, is that the title for this episode?
No.
Or was it only for the title for last episode?
Last episode.
Oh.
Because this
cool.
is not a continuum corner. It kind of is, but
What is this?
This is
That's what I
normal.
thought.
This is normal podcast.
Oh.
Continuum Corner is more about what screwed up things happened to us that we're still dealing with now.
Oh, yeah. Continuum. Yeah.
So anyway, so this topic is going to be more conversational. It's going to be more dialogue, more this one will probably be more interesting in terms of everything's going to be kind of more theoretical, because today's topic is about, well, what do we think is our abuser's problem? And this episode, when we came up with like a list of what we anticipated our podcast structure to look like, I was talking with Ellie not long ago, because originally we were talking, the way we had it structured was like, yeah, we'll talk about this and this and this and this. And all the episodes that we've done prior, we've kind of done like 14-ish episodes where the idea was, we'll do 6, you, me, etc. And we kind of overloaded our topics.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, we don't really need to go this in depth again. So
No.
let's jump around, and in fact, let's just do this next one, which is what's wrong with our abuser. And this is something we've had a lot of conversations about in the past, probably in the past
With
2
our mom.
years. Excuse me?
With our mom, too.
Yes, with our mom. And I just think it's good, because we've talked about our abuse, we talked about our healing and whatnot, and we have not talked about what we think is wrong with him. We kind of touched a little bit. I think last episode we kind of touched a little bit about it.
A little bit.
But
kind of hinting into this episode, really.
Yeah. And so I just think now is a great time to kind of put things on the table, because who even knows what our ideas and beliefs are going to be later on. You know,
Yeah.
Things might change, things might evolve in terms of what we think. And
So hop on to it. What do you think?
so for me, I think the majority of his stuff is okay. So let me just give some context, just to kind of help illustrate what it is that I think is the problem. Our society nowadays really highlights mental health, right? Everything's a mental
Yeah.
health issue. Everything's mental health. And
Yeah.
the sad thing about that is I don't know what that means anymore. Mental health
so
can be,
oversaturated.
well, it can be depression. It can be, I had a bad day at work. It can be stress. And I'm not
Anxiety.
diminishing mental health. I just think mental health now is the go-to word for everything, right? Not all the case, not everything, but everything is a mental health issue. There's a school shooting, it's a mental health issue. There's a new war starting in another country and people are committing genocide. That's a mental health issue. And I think for me, I've noticed in my healing that people like to separate things into different categories. We like to separate our mind different from our heart, different from our spirit, different from our soul, different from our body, and we put them in different boxes and different containers, and they just don't touch each other. Growing up, that would have been Ellie's perfect plate, because Ellie did not like food touching each other. Everything had a boundary, and you didn't cross over, and you just keep...
Compartmentalized.
Yeah, we like to compartmentalize everything. And I believe everything, first and foremost, is a spiritual issue. So I will first go on the record and say, I think at the crux of everything our health is tied to spiritual health. With
Yeah.
that being said, I believe that the way that his makeup is materialized is in mental issue. So
Or
I
like a
don't
symptom.
believe he's possessed. I don't believe he's tormented by spirits necessarily from a spiritual health point. I just think that his lack of health has metastasized in a brain psychological disorder, however, whatever words you want to call it. I think that's where it's housed. It doesn't mean that he can't be influenced. We're all influenced by the spiritual realm, so I'm not saying that he's not like influenced necessarily, but I think the crux of, think of it this way, the spiritual realm might be the gasoline, but the engine that drives the vehicle is his brain. That's the best way that I would probably describe it from my perspective.
I want to give clarity in an area real quick. We might have some listeners who don't know any religious practice or terminology or Christianese thing. So want to give a break on what you've mentioned. For those who may not know, when everything that's happening here on this earth, whether you are a person who practices a church religion or your own religion or what have you, there's a spiritual atmosphere that is happening and is being experienced by every single person and individual. Now, which one you worship or pertain to or idolize is each their own. Some people are just plain Satan worshipers. Some of them are, I'm doing nothing. No one's my idol. Yes, there is, but it's been symptomized to it being your phone, it being your career, it being your fashion, your influencer era, whatever it may be, to super simplify it down. When those who are Christians like Zach and I, we say that, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, if I'm in this area, but we are using the Lord God Almighty, who came on this earth and died for our sins, as our God, as the one that we worship, as the one that we know that we have an end story with him on the other side of heaven. There are people that I believe, like
Ellie has diarrhea,
who have said yes to the Lord, but they're dealing, I'm sorry, dang it.
Ellie has diarrhea.
No, dang it. I even prayed about this, saying, let me not do this. Dang it.
Oh well. While Ellie's writing that timestamp down.
No, I'm back. I'm back. Give it to me.
She's back, y'all.
One thing. Welcome back. I'm back again. Sorry. One thing that I believe about our abuser is that, yes, he has said yes to the Lord. However, has still said yes to other things in his life that are, I don't know what he has said yes to, but from my own experience and experiencing him as my father and the healing that I've gone through, I have also said yes to other things and idolized things and worshiped other things. And I've gone through the layering, the onion situation of, okay, I need to let go of this. I need to let go of that. This materialistic thing, this earthly thing, this spiritual stronghold that I did say yes to and is still tormenting me today. So it's a very complex thing, that to a degree I do agree with you, Zach, and I think you wanted to say more things, so go ahead.
I did want to say more things.
Go ahead.
And I'll continue. Ellie and I don't necessarily disagree on what we think is wrong with him. I think where we have differences in belief as to what's wrong with him are in the certain levels.
Yeah.
So while and I'll just speak for me, I won't speak for Ellie. I believe that, like I said, I think abuse runs in his family,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he has a I think when that runs in your family and it's passed down from generation to generation, I believe he had a genetic predisposition to having mental illness. I think his family uh mental illness is second nature that runs in his family anyway, so not only was he born with a high likelihood of having it, he was surrounded by it. And you had the enemy, Satan, who um helped facilitate it. Um, so for me, I would say a lot of his issues come from, for one, what he was taught to believe, what was taught to be normal for him.
Yeah.
However, I think because it started so early, um, it wasn't like he was like, it wasn't like he grew up in this village where abuse was normal, and then once he escaped that village, he was like, oh wow, it's not supposed to be this way, and the heavens opened and wisdom came and he chose better. I just think he was surrounded by it, and that just took root as to who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the enemy doesn't hasn't had to do a lot in
Yeah.
order to make that happen. So interestingly enough, when I first walked away, my first belief was I think he's a narcissist. And I don't mean that as someone who just has narcissistic tendencies, which is kind of like, oh, I think highly of myself and things are all about me and self centeredness. Um, I believed he was a narcissist. And at the time, I know the therapist that he was going to didn't necessarily believe that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really sold on that necessarily. Just I think the therapist at one point, I don't remember who she said it to, whether it was our mom, Ellie, or someone else, said, well, there might be some tendencies, but she didn't think that that was the main issue. As I've gotten older and as I've watched him unfold and watched him operate in the world, it's kind of changed a little bit. And so I just need another few more minutes and then I'll pass it on to Ellie because I've been kind of talking this whole time. Um, I believe that he has narcissistic issues. I think he's a narcissist. And I think he has what's also called um, antisocial disorder. And so I'm going to put my glasses on. So forgive me if there's a glare. I have this big light right here, but I have to read. Um, One of the reasons why I've recently kind of come to this conclusion a bit is not long ago, I was kind of talking with, I wasn't talking with our mom, but I was going over in my head, what does my mom think he has?
Yeah.
And our mom, probably about a year ago, said she was listening to a sermon, and there was this word that she caught on to in the sermon that she felt the Holy Spirit kind of affirmed, and that word was called depraved indifference. And in the sermon, the example was given was like, imagine you are sitting on your front porch and you see a child get hit by a car. A normal person would get up and call 911 and make sure that the kid
Yeah.
is okay. Someone who has depraved indifference would just go, well, not my problem. And so I was like, okay, I can see that. There's times in my life where I can go back in my memory and go, yeah, I can see how that shows up in my
Right.
memories and what he's done. And so I started doing some digging. I was like, where let me look up depraved indifference. And what was interesting was depraved indifference is not a psychological term. It doesn't exist in psychology. It's a legal definition.
Mm.
Just like the word manslaughter is a legal definition. It is a word. So I have the definition up here. Depraved indifference is a legal term that refers to a state of mind characterized by disregard for the value of human life and willingness to
Mm.
act without concern for the potential for grievous harm, even through death, may result. It's a key element that's often used in homicide cases. And so I was like, that's pretty dark.
Yeah.
So I then started looking up, like, when does this word come up with in legal decisions? Is this like in murder cases? Is it often found in other cases? And that's where things started kind of go a little interesting. Not all, but what kind of caught me off guard was there was some information on the internet that said a lot of times, or not a lot, but sometimes this comes up when people are get committed for crimes and it's found out that they have what's called antisocial personality disorder. And
yeah.
using the Google, that is a mental health disorder characterized by the disregard for other people. And I was like, okay, so I can see how that's tied.
Right.
So then I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't know. I haven't really, I've heard that term before, but not a lot. And so I then was like, okay, Google, how does this manifest? Is this a narcissistic personality disorder? Where does this come up with? And it said, no, it mainly comes up in what we in pop culture either called a psychopath or a sociopath. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so I asked AI, I said, is there a correlation between narcissism and depraved indifference? And it said, yes, there is a connection, but it's connected between depraved indifference and sociopathy is the term in psychology. It says it's not a direct correlation.
Can you remind me what sociopath versus psychopath?
I'll get there in a second.
Okay, cool.
So, essentially, the pop cultural term is sociopathy, but the real thing is called antisocial personality disorder, which is just a demonstrative behavior to not consider other people. And so then I was like, okay, so narcissism and narcissism and sociopath, like, is that possible? Is that common? Is there a term for it? So there is a difference between technically there is a difference between psychopath and sociopath, but not when it comes into the realm of psychology. Psychology, both of those are antisocial behaviors. The difference is supposedly a sociopath might be more emotional, might not be as calculated, whereas someone who's a psychopath is a little bit more premeditative and might be willing to break the law to get what they want. But there's really no psychological differentiating between the two. They both are under the umbrella of antisocial disorder. So then I was like, okay, so then is it possible for a narcissist and, like, are they cousins? Are they twins? Like, how does this all kind of work? And then I came up across the word a narcopath, which is a slang term for a narcissistic sociopath. And what's interesting is that was a term that I remember in a Poema Chronicles blog that is from Alice Mills, of which we've spoken about. She helped me in my healing path. She helped Ellie in hers. And not ironically, but I never made this connection until recently. She describes what a narcopath is, and she uses an actual biblical reference. Do you want to guess the biblical reference? Take a wild guess. I'll give you a hint.
Judas?
Nope. Haman.
Why? Wait, did we read that recently?
Haman is an Esther.
Uh-huh.
Our podcast is about escaping of what the Purim is, the Jewish celebration of escaping what Haman tried to do.
Right.
And in this blog, she goes throughout the verses in the Bible what a narcissistic sociopath is. There's different names for it. They call it a malignant narcissist and stuff like that. But she describes Haman as a narcopath and goes through the verses and shows why he is, what that means, how it shows, etc., to the point where Haman hates Mordecai so much that he wants to kill him, right?
Mm-hmm.
In modern translations, it technically shows as Haman wanted to hang Mordecai, like through a gallows, but instead what he really wanted to do was put Mordecai on a spike and put it in the middle of the village so that Haman could see it every day. That's disgusting, right? That's flat out evil. To be displayed, not just for a day, forever, to be a reminder to everyone and for Haman to get like this satisfaction that Mordecai didn't get away with being dishonored because Haman felt dishonored, right? So, context, do I believe our father abuser is a Haman? Not necessarily to that extent, but I think I believe there's certain levels of how extreme people with disorders can be. I think some people are not as high-tuned. I think some people are probably not as extreme. But that just kind of got me thinking. And so I just wanted to read a little bit of what a psychopathic or sociopathic narcissist is. And one of the things that kind of caught me off guard was narcissistic narcopaths tend to focus on getting what they want, even if that means violating boundaries. While they may not be adamant about other people following the rules, they often assume that those rules do not apply to themselves. Narcissistic sociopaths may lie, steal, or cheat to meet their needs. However, they quickly justify their decisions and will often try to make others feel guilty when confronting them. Patterns of abusive behavior. Narcopaths often hurt others with confusing patterns of love bombing, devaluation, gaslighting, and other forms of manipulation. While many of them want love, they latch onto others for a sense of identity and purpose. However, once the other person cannot fully meet their needs, they can experience deep anger, which they often take out on that person. And so
that's painful.
It is painful. And so is there a textbook definition of what our abuser is? No, not necessarily.
That's pretty dang close though.
But I always kind of struggled with narcissism because I was like, yes, I feel like he's like partially a narcissist, but the manipulation factor is like oftentimes when you look into narcissism, someone who's a narcissist, they're okay with you if you don't catch on to them. A narcissist doesn't really go out of their way to attack you. They'll only do that if you threaten their sense of identity. And so, yes, I have seen that in our abuser's life, in my experience, but I always knew like, okay, so is he just like an abusive narcissist? Is he just like a manipulative narcissist? Like what, like there's something else there other than narcissism. And
if
so
I may interject too.
Yeah, actually go for it. That's what I think. I think there's some sort of sociopathic tendencies there that he exists in. I don't know to what degree, but I would probably say that's what I think is wrong with him. And I'm going to leave it to Ellie so that way she can talk about what she wants to talk about.
Sure. Well, just to tag off what you said though, I think there's something profound in recognizing what we said several or a couple episodes into the series where we recognized that I was brainwashed. Sorry.
Brainstorm.
No, I was brainwashed. I wasn't. It's weird to see. Stop it.
Sorry, hold on. One pause. And I promise. I'll give it to Ellie because I've been listening to our podcast and I've been really realizing, crap, I talk a lot. Ellie needs to talk more than me. Um, I think it's just funny with the brainwash mix
Yeah.
up word that you had, because not long ago one of our German cousins that's around our age, we were communicating over Instagram and she was talking to me in German, and I was trying to ask her in German, one of her grandmas, like, oh, did you grow up with her? Did you grow up with that grandma? The German word for that is Aufgewaschen, which means like to grow up. But I said
Okay.
Augenwaschen, which means eye wash, washing your eyes. So I asked her on accident because I missed the F and I missed the SEN at the end. It should have been different. But just by missing a few letters, instead of asking her, oh, did you grow up with your grandma? I asked, did you wash your eyes with your grandma? Did you and your grandma wash your eyes together? And then I was like, dang it, this is why I shouldn't even try.
Oh.
So that's what that was like a few days ago. So that just kind of reminds.
That's cute.
I've been brainstormed
That's
my
cute.
whole life, you guys. Oh, I get
No.
it.
No. Just recognizing a couple episodes into the series that how you were abused,
Mm-hmm.
just point blank one way since day one, the entire way. And
Mm-hmm.
very direct, very obvious, very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas for me, what I experienced was unknown brainwashing,
Mm-hmm.
and now looking back, love bombing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like materialistic things that I don't have anything of anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, no, I lied. We are gonna have another episode talking about some other materials that I actually do have that I found the other day. But then into high school era, then he started to verbally attacking me, and out of nowhere, and not realizing that it's his scheme of something. I was catching on to him to some degree, and it became a threat.
Yeah.
And so he then verbally attacked me, and then I think we what's the visual of like putting a rug on top of a fire to
Extinguish.
yeah, like we tried to do that in therapy sessions, but it then got worse. Like it was actually a gasoline fire. Like
yeah, the carpet had gasoline on it.
something, because then after therapy sessions, okay, yeah, we figured it out, but it was another twisted version of him trying to get what he wanted out of our relationship that crossed the boundaries of a father-daughter relationship, where he would share things about his marriage with me. He would share things about his counseling sessions with me. He would complain to me about our younger brother, about how much of an idiot he is. He's stupid, and all of these things that didn't line up to father boundaries. And then years later, I'm back into town and he's verbally attacking me even worse than what I remember in high school. Like he didn't have a one-way approach to how to abuse me. And I don't know how much different that is to our younger brother's experience, because I've seen videos. I think I told it to you. I think I said it in this episode. I've recognized that he has, I'm sorry, not him, but in the season where there was that temporary separation, there's no photos of me and him. There's videos of me and him. I'm sorry, of him and our younger brother, because they wanted to play and they wanted to do whatever, farting around and goofing off and stuff like that. So I grabbed my phone and I'm videotaping it, making memories. But there's such a huge symbolism of, I was also being used as bait and switch for him to do whatever he wanted to do to build this story for our younger brother versus the story for me. And the type of problems that he has, I'm wishy-washy because I don't want to label who he is and it sticks with him, or it sticks with me forever that this is who he is and this is what he is. But I actually pulled up real quick a letter that I recently wrote to him, because our podcast episodes have been healing for me, have been healing for us as our brother-sister duo, honestly, for me to learn more about you and what you've endured and what it has looked like for you. But it's also revealed, like, man, I really miss having a father. I know you've had a comment saying like you never really even had a starting point with a father, with him specifically. But I decided to not to brush over that, by the way. I'm sorry for that. Okay. I want to I want to actually look at, I wrote a letter to him because I really wish that I had a relationship with a father. But as I was writing this out, like, mind you, I don't intend to send this to him. And if I do, it has to be God telling me to send it to him, type of thing. But I started writing this letter like, hey, it's been over 2 years since we've been in the same room. It's been about 1.5 years since I last spoke to him. He tried to text me. He did text me with our counselor in a group chat, but it's been silent ever since then. I'm processing, like, I wonder if you think about me as your daughter. I wonder if you tell people about your daughter, about your children. I wonder if I even wrote, I'm not asking to be back in your life. I just wonder if you've ever valued me in the first place. Maybe your definition of the word value is different to mine, but I wonder if you have any aha moment to what I've shared with you between August 2022 and May 2023. Maybe what I've shared with you and who you are is the truth, but that would mean that you'd have to consider the truth, and then things would be different between you and I. And just that kind of train of thought. And then I applied it to another thing and then went back to, but you have to go back to the truth. And then another train of thought, but you have to go back to the truth. And I ended up getting frustrated and I stopped writing this letter because no matter what he has, all I know for sure that he has is that he's not willing to see the truth. He has his version of the truth, but the truth would include encompassing everyone else's and giving grace and room for everyone else to have their perspective and being willing and open to accept it, or at least allow it in the same room and vicinity of him. And he won't do that.
Yeah, I think what's interesting with all of that is kind of going back to how when you started talking, and you briefly highlighted that you and I had different levels of abuse. I was talking recently to someone who I was sharing about this podcast and doing this with you, and I was telling this person, I said, it's a full-time job to purposefully abuse somebody.
Yeah.
It's a double full-time job to ensure that numerous people experience different abuse, which means that this was intentional. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't like, oh, I didn't know any better. This was all intentional. And I think for me, when I was discovering that there's such a thing as a sociopathic narcissist, I was like, that kind of makes sense, because antisocial disorder or antipersonal disorder, whatever the technical term is, it's a disregard for the other person.
Yep.
And it's so that way the person who is enacting the abuse gets what they want. People are things, people are obstacles, and it's all about figuring how to how to squeeze them dry to get what you want. And that's just so not love. And I one thing I want to ask you, just so that we can kind of talk about a few things. There was once upon a time where Ellie believed, I won't say believed, I will just say there was a point in time where if you were to ask Ellie, what do you think is wrong with your abuser? Her response was, I think it's spiritually demonic. In the sense of she believes or believed at the time that the house that we grew up in, what he entertained was just spiritual evil, and that it was tormenting him, it was around him, etc., etc. At least that's how I interpreted her explanation of it. And so I want to ask you, can you elaborate, one, what you believed back in the day, and two,
Okay.
does that still stand, or is it, I partially believe that, but I now believe this? Or because I'm kind of with you. I don't want to give definitions, because no one can be 100% a definition. And I'm not trying to necessarily speak like what I think is wrong with our abuser over him. I just think it helps give context to what you're dealing with. Because, and I promise I'll let you speak, I say this because back in the day, Ellie and I would passionately argue, not out of anger, but we would passionately argue because in my perspective, I was like, look, if this guy is like not good in the head, you cannot bring that person from the dark side to the light side through love. You can't cure that, right?
And then I would fight that.
But if the issue was, but the issue is it's the enemy working. So if he sees Christ through me, it's a different story. And I'm not saying that's what Ellie's perspective necessarily was. It was just there when you don't define things or you don't give context for things, the person who's experiencing the abuse is trying to find answers and trying to find the why. And sometimes when you try to find the why while you're being abused, the why is not to have the context, it's to figure out, can I figure out the issue and save this person? Or is there something that I can do differently to make this person better? And so I think sometimes definitions, while they can be detrimental, they just kind of help give context to what is that you're dealing with. Are you dealing with someone who is dangerous, or are you dealing with someone who doesn't have a relationship with the Lord? And so that's where the abuse is coming from, because there's different strategies and different heart postures to have with that. So please, Ellie, take it away. We only have like 20-ish plus minutes left. So please talk about a little bit what your original thoughts were with your abuse and what was wrong with him, and where do you kind of stand now?
I think a lot of what you refer to when we're talking about when we would fight passionately of my stance, it was before I've gone through the healing. It was like right after I broke up with him, but I did not know what was ahead of me in healing.
Sure.
At that specific point, I broke away. I'm in the escape home or whatever. For me, if I remember correctly, I think part of it was like there's just some sort of spiritual attachment that's trying to torment him, and he doesn't know how to break away from it. So he's in this spiritual jail, and he's just stuck in this environment that he can't get out of, and he doesn't know how to escape from it. To a degree, I want to believe that's still somewhat true. However, I literally read a part of my book last night. My book is Leadership as an Identity, because of what I'm doing at work. And I love the approach of it, because it's talking about 4 main qualities to be a godly leader in whatever environment that you're in, whether it's directly in ministry or you are your own ministry. I'm sorry, you are the Lord's ministry in your job. But goes through main quadrants of you need to be broken in order to have a relationship with the Lord to be a leader, and remembering the Lord is going to be providing you all the things that you need. You need to be broken in order just to lean into him. To people who don't have the relationship with the Lord, that does sound a little crazy, I know, but follow through with me for a second. I can't remember the second or third, just because it's all encompassing, essentially, who you are. It is, you are this. It's black and white. You know, of course, there's going to be some gray area because there's some molding that you need to learn about yourself to before you go into the next level of your leadership and your growth. But literally, I was reading, essentially, you're not just a person who comes in, clocks on, and you're a leader. You are this person. You are this identity because you have this relationship with the Lord who defines you in every nook and cranny. And if you allow him to, he's going to break walls for you to realize what areas of your character that you need to change and mold in order to serve him. So that way people can continue to see him through you. And there's no doubt about it, that's the Lord, or there's something different about you. I wonder what's special about this person that I don't see in other people. And it starts the train of thought for others to be able to see the Lord and the good things that the Lord has. However, I feel like that can be applied in our abuser in this case, where all who he is, I'm gonna kind of go off script than what I originally thought I was going to do. We don't have a script to begin with, I know, but I think I need to verbally process what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I think he doesn't know what he doesn't know. So some of it is blindfolded. However, if he has been abusing you for 20 plus years, has been brainwashing me, then verbally accusing me and turning around the corner and being so manipulative in telling you a story in those 20 years and telling me a different story and plotting out X, Y, and Z, like, that is who he is. He doesn't know anything else. He fully believes that he is in the right because in his mind, he is right. And everyone else who tries to go against that is the enemy. And I just see, from my personal healing perspective, I know that I have an inner child. When I look back to myself at 8 years old, I was so unaware of all this chaos. But golly, I'm so thankful of her, because God thought of me 20 years past being that 8-year-old little girl, and he still chose to protect me in other areas that I didn't know about. With our abuser, he doesn't know anything outside of the abuse that he endured and the abuse that he's seen and was modeled in his parents, in his grandparents, in his siblings, in his friends who went to jail, in his, who knows all the things that he endured. I don't even fully grasp it when I remember he was fully processing the abuse that he endured from his mom alone. I don't know all of it. I'm not supposed to know all of it. But I know a portion of it because of how he treated me, because he treated me based on how his mom treated him. That's no excuse, but that's his reason of him doing what he does, is because all he knows is trauma. All he knows is gaslighting. All he knows is manipulation. He went to jail All he knows is prison. And I'm going to go back to my letter because I even mentioned it. I said, does your life feel like jail? Does it feel like that you're suffocating? Because he's not willing to see other things, to consider that maybe he's wrong. Spiritually, there's so many pieces to the spiritual world. There's so many pieces. I don't fully grasp it. I'm glad that I'm not in a position that I need to fully understand it. I know I'm growing and learning, and 20 years from now, I'll have a different perspective. But with him, he is in a nonstop jail mindset, where it has to be a miracle from the Lord, because on his own, he cannot escape the jail that he has said yes to over and over again and decided to choose to stay living in it after his adoptive eldest son left, after his daughter, first biological child daughter left, his wife left. And he still hasn't taken a grasp at the fact that maybe he's wrong. Maybe there's something wrong. Can we ponder on that idea? He's not willing, he's not capable. That's not possible for him. He has our youngest brother in his circle. He has youngest brother's ex-partner in his circle. He has, from what I understand, because he has shared with our mom during their divorce process, he has shared with her, he's gotten reconnected to his jailmates. He's gotten reconnected to folks that he knew, and mom also knows that it wasn't good for them to be friends type of thing. It was before he said yes to the Lord type of seasons. He has taken everything and has decided to sit in his muck. And it's what I think of in the Bible, looking at Moses and Egypt and the fight with Pharaoh and his hardened heart and his stubbornness. He is not moving. He has his own thoughts and his opinions, and no, you will not go. You belong to me, and you can give me all the plagues you want. No, absolutely not. No. I don't know what's going to be the point for him, if he ever has the point for him to turn a corner. Like, the reason why he let God's people go was that his first son was killed. It was so devastating and so distraught for Pharaoh that, fine, go. I lost everything. I wonder what's going to be the point of our abuser's lost everything moment. I don't want that for him. I don't want him to lose everything. I don't want him to go back to jail or go to all this extreme things. But I just wonder for him, what is going to be that breaking moment, thing, obstacle, piece? Because it hasn't been met yet. His world must be chaotic right now. His world must be jail, and that's what he's used to.
Yeah. I think I would agree for the most part with you, with everything that you said. I think in the past, I'll just say like the last 2 years for you, and I say this just because of recollections I have from our conversations. A lot of the belief of, he's choosing this, he's choosing to go down this road. Once upon a time, the explanation for that was, from your understanding, it was kind of like he just doesn't know any better. And I would push back of like, no, he's had the option because he's been in therapy for decades. He has heard us. It's not like up until 2022 he had never heard, you're hurting me, you're abusing me, so it's not like we were just silent for 30 years and here came Ellie with, no, stop this abuse. And he's like, what do you mean? I've never heard this word abuse before. What are you talking about? My life,
Right.
So like there, yes, I would,
Hollywood.
well, I believe one of the hardest things I've had to realize when it comes to abusive people is they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to have grace for their abuser, I'm not here to say don't have compassion or grace or anything, or have sympathy for a person. Because yes, it must have been horrible to have grown up in his childhood, to have had the life experience that he did. However, just like you and me, every day we wake up with a choice.
Yep.
We choose when we're going to press the snooze alarm. We decide if we're going to go get coffee for the day. We decide if we're going to let the busy work day be a reason to make us upset and depressed all day, or if we're going to push through it. We get to decide if we're going to let the person who cut us off in the car, give them certain fingers or say bless you. We get to choose every minute, every hour, every day, week, month, year, how we're going to live our lives and what we're going to choose. And
when we choose to be better and choose to heal, and what choices in the healing process too.
And that would be, yes. So a person who has the capacity to do that will do that. We'll make a choice. We'll learn from their behavior and go, oh, you mean if I put my hand on the burner, it's going to burn me? What a concept. I guess I shouldn't do that because, whatever. I think I think for me, when it comes to our abuser is I believe he knows what he's doing, does it on purpose, knows that there's an option to not, but he chooses to do what he does, not because it's, well, this is all I've ever known, but it's more of a heart posture.
You've been told otherwise, yet you still choose.
Yeah, it's not like, it's kind of like, and that's the hard thing because then it means you can't make excuses for him. It means you can, but all it does is minimize it minimizes the abuse that you're experiencing. Yes. Yep. And it minimizes their responsibility. And it minimizes their accountability to be accountable, to own what they've done and do differently. And people who are determined to be in that frame of mind, you cannot out-logic them. You can't out-love them. You can try. You can dedicate your life to that. But I think that's where wisdom comes in, because there has to be a certain level that you get to in life where you realize, I'm not powerful enough to make you do anything.
Right.
It's just like in a normal marriage. You can't make your spouse do anything. What was that?
Sorry. For those who may not know, Zach and I also FaceTime so we can see each other. My camera decided to crap out again.
Oh no, so you have a 404 screen again?
Yeah, because my camera overheated.
Oh goodness, again.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna
stop.
We'll have to do a still frame of Ellie's face just like staring into the camera.
Oh no. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Finish what you're saying. Hopefully my camera can come back up though.
Hopefully. Um, no, it's just I think that's where it kind of like because I remember I'll try to finish on this point. I remember it was probably a year ago. We were on a phone call, you, me, and mom, and we were we were just talking about you know our abuser and the abuse that we endured and all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, I think it's more of this, and Ellie was like, well, I think it's a little bit more spiritual than that. And our mom was like, well, I don't think it's really that. I think it's more of this and that, whatever. And we were going on and on and on about it. And finally I just said, you guys, how about we just decide he's dangerous and we shouldn't
Yeah.
be in his path
No.
unless we want to get
Yeah.
abused. How about we just agree that whatever the issue is, we don't have to expose ourselves. We give ourselves the option that we don't have to expose ourselves to it unless we want to experience it.
Right.
He might have the option every day to abuse us. We have the option every day to not be in his line of path, and we can miss the missiles that he shoots at us.
Yeah.
Why don't we decide that? And again, I think a lot of it is hard because one of the things that Alice Mills talks about in one of her blogs is we minimize and gaslight ourselves in the abuse story because having to acknowledge that the person who was supposed to love us tried to tear us apart on purpose hurts.
Yep.
And we're not, as people, willing to go there. We are more than willing to excuse it and be like, yeah, but it was his past. It's because he was abused. It was because he didn't know any better. It's because no one exampled to him a different way. It's because he never got the right counselor. It's because he never read the right books. It's because he didn't go to the right church. It's because no one loved him enough. It's like,
Stop excusing me.
okay, maybe, but at the same time, he's watching, like, I was talking to someone who was talking about the abuse that they were experiencing from their spouse. And I was asking that person, are you going to try more? Like, are you going to try to go to more therapy? Is this, and I wasn't conceptualizing what this person was trying to tell me. I thought this person was in this space in between of like, I don't know if I want a divorce and I don't know if I want to keep trying. They were just like this unknown. That's what I thought. And it wasn't until
I got my camera up, by the way.
Oh, cool. It wasn't until I was talking to this person, I'm like, well, what if you later on their own set up a therapy appointment, do this. And this person was telling me of this time where her husband was abusing her and she he kind of like left her to kind of like deal with the abuse herself, and she was sorry. She was in so much pain that she was like a guttural cry was coming from her. And her husband decided to go in the other room and turn up the television volume so he didn't have to hear her, and he left her there. And I'm like, I get it. That person has left you, that person has abandoned you, and they would rather they put you in a position for you to be in pain that they caused, and they are drowning you out so they don't have to experience the consequences of it. That is not this person doesn't know any better.
No.
That is a willful choice to abandon you and leave you crying on the ground. And I felt so sorry for her, and so, like, just to put yourself in the shoes of that, it was just so horrible. And I think when you put that in context to the abuse that we've experienced, it's like, yes, that's exactly what has happened in our lives.
Yeah.
So is it a situation where our abuser just didn't know any better? Or was it purposeful? And those are the things that you have to sit with and go, this is really rough. And this means that
Mm-hmm.
I now have to come to truths that I don't want to face. Because what if this really was done on purpose? And what if this really was intentional, so much so that my abuser has no honor for me? I'm not a
Yeah.
friend. I'm not a stranger. I'm supposed to be your child. And you would rather watch us suffer and
Yep.
be so, as that term our mom uses, depraved indifferent, to watch it and go, not my problem. It's like
Well,
the
and then
the mentality to be there, that's not a little demon on your shoulder going, look the other way. That is nefarious.
who you are. It's
It's
very.
it's nefarious, it's insidious, it's
Mhm.
evil. That's like I remember oh gosh, sorry. I remember uh it didn't happen to me. It was actually a movie. Um it was a movie I watched a long time ago. I was probably like a teenager. And I was watching it with our abuser. And it was this scientist who, the intro was this about this scientist guy, and he had a child, but he could not connect with this baby. But he was a scientist, so he would like I remember I remember watching this movie where the baby had a pacifier, and the guy took the pacifier out, and the baby was crying, and he just watched the baby cry. And I just like, it killed me, because you're just like, why would you do that? That's evil. But I'm watching this with the person that I know is capable of doing that, and has like, I didn't know consciously he would do that. But you're watching this and you're just like, this man on this television screen, to just watch their child who's crying and needs to be soothed, is just like nothing. Just watching. Has the pacifier in hand. Could give the pacifier back. And it's just watching. And it's like, that is, I don't care if you want to call that spiritual or
Yeah.
narcissistic, whatever. That's just downright evil, like, just to watch. And it's because there's such a difference of not knowing the consequences of your actions, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that by doing
Sure.
this, I hurt you. But just watching it, and the people that you're supposed to love, who are crying and pleading and begging for you to stop, they're just watching you. And you're just like, that is just downright, I'll use the word insidious. That is just downright at the core evil. And I think it's so hard to even perceive that as evil, because we don't want to admit that. We're more comfortable going, oh, that person just struggles with abuse, or that person just struggles with
Right.
this. The Bible doesn't have a hard time calling people evil, but we do. We have the hard time because we don't want to go there. We don't want to speak that over somebody. We don't want to be wrong also,
Well,
but it's
and
just,
then
ugh,
when you let me give you a break, breathe for a little bit.
go for it.
When
Ugh.
I do want to try to finish this episode also because I know my camera is gonna die soon.
Go for
Um,
it.
Just when when you detach yourself from the person who, whether it's a sibling, a parent, a
Mhm.
family, distant family member, whoever it is, even if it's your own friend that you've grown up with all your life,
Mhm.
if you decide to detach that identity of who you know them to be and then approach them is this potentially their motive, it's almost dehumanizing them and putting a position of, once you are applying the motive of, no, they're choosing to hurt me this way, instead of, no, it was just how they grew up. It's
Mhm.
such a blanket top what's it called, blanket approach versus no, they chose to attack me in this way. And how you referenced that scene of they just wanted to see what's going to happen, and they decided to choose to see what's going to happen. And if they're not willing to face what damage they've done, doesn't that kind of show you who they are more than how you know them to be?
Or what you think their problem is.
So we're back to square one again of our episode. I mean, it can be limitless of what are the problems with our abuser. I mean, I remember when it was first diagnosed, he has severe depression, and I don't know all the other things, but I just remember he just had like 3 or 4 really hard titles that I remember growing up hearing that I didn't hear was so normalized when I was growing up. So now fast forward 10, 15, 20 years to where we are today, and we overuse the words.
Right.
All this to say, I think we've come to a conclusion that we can name them today, and 20 years from now we can name so many more. But at the end of the day, what we do know to be true is that he was intentional with what he decided to do for you versus for me versus for our mom. And he did all this, like he skewed you and me and mom all differently. And our younger brother. Like, you can't not believe that's gonna that was intentional.
No, that requires dedication.
To follow the script, to follow the story, to follow the mask, the anyway, all this to say, I need to kindly stop because I'm gonna get frustrated like how I was in this letter that I tried to write and be like, ah.
And she has a birthday party to go to, so she's very well emotionally prepared to go to this birthday party right now. Sorry.
Gosh, Zach, thank you for just one. I didn't even know about that scene that you were sharing about of that movie. I'm sorry.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you
but
too.
I'm so. Oh, thanks.
I mean, it wasn't supposed to be this way. It wasn't supposed to. This was not God's intention. We were not supposed to have lives filled with this type of abuse. We weren't designed to be that way. And those were the deck of cards that we were handed. And the difference that you and I have chosen is we decided that it doesn't have to be this way, and we can break free and choose different and be different and intentionally heal. And we've chosen that. Yeah. So.
And now we're here, and we're still trying to figure out what's wrong with him. I laugh just because you either cry or laugh. I mean, all this to say, there's more to come in what we want to talk about, evidently, and it's not. We're not finishing this episode and like shrugging our shoulders like, oh, well, we don't know. It's more of there's an abundance of the damage that can be done. And we're only at the tip of the iceberg still. But we also have to come to a close at some point. And let's come to this cadence of understanding that truth. And I don't know. Do you know what we're doing in our next episode?
No, I don't know quite yet, but I will say soon, very soon, we're actually going to have a different style for at least one episode in the near future, because we have the honor and privilege of hosting Alice Mills on our podcast.
Yay.
So it's probably gonna look more like a Teams Zoom situation. So if you watch us, if you listen to us, it won't matter. But if you watch us, there'll be a different layout and stuff like that. But
Right.
we have the honor and privilege of hosting her and talking to her about her experiences and the people that she's come across and have helped healed and gain some knowledge and insight for what she's learned along the way that we can take and ask her questions and stuff like that. So I'm really excited for that one because it kind of feels a little bit more, not real, but it just kind of feels like, cool, we get to do something a little bit different than it just be us,
change of
you know?
pace.
So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that because Alice is pretty great. So
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and finish the episode because I feel it in my bones that this camera is going to not be happy soon here. So
already.
thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. And thank you for 10 episodes. We got more coming.
Bye.
Bye.